I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for where I'm from 191 with Domenica. And sorry, I had to make sure I said it right. I did. And it's funny because what have you been reading? I don't know that this has ever happened before. I have been reading Domenica's book, All the Mothers. And I loved it. And it was such a surprisingly fun book. Um, it's about three single mothers and how their lives intersect very meaningfully. And more than anything, I messaged Domenica this yesterday. It asked this like central question of how much time and energy into these systems that bring us so little happiness, as you can. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so this is hello.
I
I was just talking about your book. I don't think this has ever happened that I'm reading the book of the person whose poem is this week. So this was sort of serendipitous and
oh
fun.
God.
Yeah. And I was just saying how much I loved it.
I think it's a fun summer read. It's joyful and
It
things are not.
is.
It
It
is.
is. I was prepared for something heavier, to be honest, and I was so relieved
Yeah.
because I can't right now. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a little heavy everywhere, and
It
but
is.
I loved how it was still very, sadly, revolutionary for I think a lot of people to think about parenthood and community in this way. And so it's still like saying something, but in a way that is not so heavy. So it was really
Yeah.
perfect for me right now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you're getting everything to get out of it. So thank
Yeah. So that was a joy. And thank you for joining me. I think that we're in the same anthology, No Contact, because Jenny
I just
Bartoy reached out to me.
Jenny reached out to me and I was like, oh, it's one of my mates. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually how we originally became connected was we both posted about it, but I wasn't 100% sure. And then
Yeah.
Jenny messaged me and also I just reread your poem and I thought, oh, this sounds like we have some overlap in experiences. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so No Contact, for those of you who don't know, is a anthology about estrangement that's coming out next spring from Catapult. And Jenny Bartoy is the editor, who's a wonderful, detail oriented, passionate editor who I'm very grateful for.
Really love her.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a really powerful anthology.
I think so too. I think a lot of people, I don't know if this was your experience, but when I posted about it, so many people were like, oh, me too. And I mean, I've been estranged for decades, so it's not new news for me. But I would have loved to have a book like this when I was going through it because I was a real weirdo. That, um,
Yeah. So same from my mom for decades and from my dad for about 4 years now, and then everyone who comes along with it. And
yeah,
decades ago, it was weird when people, it like, and now, I mean, the word the phrase no contact or low contact zeitgeist, and that if you drop that, people know what you're talking about. And back then, sort of, yeah, I haven't talked to her in so many
yeah,
years.
that was the
I was
thing. I haven't talked to them. Hmm.
right,
Hmm.
or don't talk, or I'm not in contact. And now you can say no contact, or for some people, it's low contact.
Hmm.
And there's so much more understanding and empathy around that. And I think,
Yeah,
sadly, politics have really widened
yes, I
that
would agree.
bad field. And we recruited a lot more fraternity and sorority members, because of politics. But yeah.
I would agree. So anyway, you wrote a really powerful poem. Would you like to read it?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll read it right now. I'm gonna look. It's on my. You're on my phone, and this is on my computer.
Yes, yes, common.
Uh, I haven't read a poem out loud in
Mm.
years, so thank you for bearing with me.
Yeah, it's an experience.
I am from whatever car in the driveway is working, probably a taxi. From Brioschi and Oxycontin. I am from crack pipes, burned couches, windows draped with towels, smoky, dark, screaming. I am from invasive phragmite choking the brackish muck of the saltmarsh, smelling like low tide and scars. I am from addiction and denial, from Nonnna and so many Michaels. I am from the tendency to eat until it hurts, from no one likes a rat and never speak ill of the dead, even when they beat you. I am from the Virgin Mary and witches. I am from Massachusetts and Sicily, escarole soup, gnocchi rolled under your thumb. From the man she found in bed with another woman on their honeymoon cruise, that same man who died decades later in the bed of another woman, cheating on the woman he cheated on her with. From the woman who tended bar, ran numbers, crossed the country in a long haul truck just for fun. From a water heater, where a junkie left the cardboard box and almost every single picture of my childhood, my report cards, my Mother's Day cards boiled back to pulp.
Thank you. Um, well, first off, you're not the first person who's lost all their photos. And I always feel a little bit like asking for childhood photos, like, but if you have one or any, you have the one you sent me. Is that one of the only ones you have?
I have a few. I have like about this many
Mm-hmm.
that happen to be somewhere else, not in that box. So they
Mm-hmm.
all arrived, but I mean it's a really small. It's like it's about this many.
And isn't it something, considering I'm guessing you have 1 million photos of your children?
I mean my like I phone. It's comical. Like where people like I'll try to look up like oh yeah their birthday and I'm like run away. You know we do we do print them, on occasion.
Yeah.
But oh God, the fear I have. I mean, I have the cloud, so everything's on the cloud. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's not a problem that people have these days that you can lose all of your photographs. You can lose all your printed photographs, but
Yeah.
if you escape your house in a fire and you bring your phone, or even back
Yeah.
it up to the cloud, it's there. Yeah.
Well, and that was the thing, because people, I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of
Right.
conversations about what you would bring in a fire. And
Right.
um, that was always my thing because I think now looking back on it, it was really proof of my existence. Like these people were here, I was here, this happened, even though it's not really, photos of that. But
Right. No.
it
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels like significant. So I feel this having lost it. I'm sorry. I know it's nothing compared to
Yeah.
all the other things, but there
Right.
is
No,
something
but
about it.
there's something, and like, thank you for. It's like the camera bears witness, not to
Yeah,
everything,
you know.
obviously, but I mean, like, it does. It bears witness, and then to have that witness taken away is this whole other kind of loss.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I was talking with my therapist last week about, grief about things that don't haven't happened or I mean, it's like we have so many different kinds of grief
Hmm.
and that's another kind. Just the things that we've lost. I think also it's just um I when I first started I didn't have no contact or estrangement or any of that. When I first started not talking to my brothers and my father, who I did reconnect with before he died, but I mean, I grieve so much of what was never going to be,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, which is, and when my dad gave me his diagnosis, the acceptance of, oh, we're never gonna, like, we're not gonna have the, like, deathbed, whatever is always in the movies.
Right.
He's just gonna be the same dude and then he's gonna die.
Right.
um, and so you talk about the loss in both kinds of loss in this poem. The never speak ill of the dead, I think, is such a powerful thing that our culture is incredibly married to.
Yeah. I keep
Um,
it the sicker form of patriarchy because
mhm.
who does that benefit ultimately?
Oh, for sure. Hmm.
It benefits patriarchs who die, and that we protect them even beyond this world.
Hmm.
And I saw this with my grandfather, who was the one, who my grandmother caught him in bed with another woman on their honeymoon cruise. my mother was named after one of his mistresses, and everyone, it was a thing that he just
Mhm.
had millions of affairs. And yeah, and he was really violent. He was just, he was really like a violent, in many ways, mean dude. And like everyone knew, we talked about it. And then suddenly when he died,
Mhm.
he became a saint.
Mhm.
And I was a little girl. I was never close to him. He didn't. He called me Nicole. He never knew my name. You know, sort of like, okay, cool. But
Right. Hmm.
and I remember being like, what changed? I was maybe like, I don't know, like 13 years old, and I was like,
Hmm.
what? He's this like he was this violent, abusive man who nearly killed all of you in
Hmm.
rage. Now he's dead, and he's this amazing person. And I'm not talking about at the funeral, which it's a weird ritual. I'm talking about at the
Yeah,
kitchen
after.
table.
Hmm.
Oh, and I just think that that is like one of the sickest ways we uphold patriarchy.
Yeah, and I think it's so stealth. Like
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, you're trying to process your experiences of this person and be honest about them, and it's just, well, not now, but it's really not ever, never ever can
that's
you
right.
process this.
Right.
um because I know that for me, when my dad died, I was only relieved,
Right.
and people were very upset by that. they
Yeah.
they wanted me to be devastated, and
Right.
you just wait, you'll be sadly, and it's like, well, I mean, now it's been 16 years, 17,
Yeah.
it's not sad still,
Yeah.
you guys, and
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I'm grateful that I don't need to navigate this with my children, with every, like, it's just
Yeah.
a weight that is lifted.
Yeah.
And I was not in fear for my life, but there are so many situations where people are, and then we have to act as if it's
As
sad they're gone.
that's been erased. Yeah. No. Yeah. And the relief is it's such a powerful feeling. I remember when my mom is still alive. I tried to reconnect with her a couple years ago because I had just beaten cancer, and I was like, okay,
Oh, wow.
like I was like, there's nothing she can do to hurt me anymore. I, I, I will be gone. um, you know,
Cancer doesn't know how to be personal the
right,
same way,
right.
probably. Hmm.
And I, I can't remember where I'm going with this, but like, yeah, no, just this idea that, this idea of relief, and I, because there's this pressure. There's sort of we know the trajectory of the story.
Hmm.
It's like Flannery O'Connor famously said that her mother said, a story that isn't a real story unless someone gets married or someone dies. But have the sort of final human ritual for it to be over, and so that is the trajectory. It's like all will be resolved at the end. Like you'll have the deathbed conversation, and for you'll have some kind of apology,
Oh,
or
for
you'll
sure. Yes, that is the expectation, for
you
sure.
the victim,
We'll
the
forgive.
one will transcend it all and forgive, and that anything other than that is taboo. It's a transgression against the narrative, against the
Hmm.
structure that our brains make up. Like, and then it's okay, and it's like, no, then it's just shitty, and then it's just over. And I had a friend contact his mother, and then she died, and I said, how you doing? He's like, well, that's one fight I'll never have again. And I was like, yeah, I love that. Like, that is a fight we'll never have again, at least not in real life.
Hmm.
Never out loud quarrel with her, which
Hmm.
it's like that's over, and what a relief that is. And so when people tell me they're relieved, I say, good for you,
Oh, for
And
sure. It's like when people tell me they're getting divorced and I say, good
yeah,
for you.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
obviously it's not working. So
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
keep trying, for heaven's
right,
sakes,
right,
please.
yeah,
um, yeah. And I think also, for anybody who has been abused by somebody, like it's also, I mean, I've talked to my therapist about it at length, but like, until my brother is dead, it's there, even though I know, like, intellectually he's not going to show up at my house, like my body still knows he exists.
yeah, yeah. I
um
so resonate with that. That yeah, this fear of I don't want to run into these people. You
No.
know, like, even though I'm in a different state, I live in a big
Yeah.
city.
Oh yeah, same.
I've taken
Doesn't matter.
scrub
Yeah.
search facility on the internet. I've paid money to
Hmm.
do that because of these people. Like, there's still like, I'm like, I don't, like, I will not relax until they're out of the picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wrote about him for the book, so there's all of
Yeah.
that like
Oh,
related to it, you know.
yeah.
But that's what I lived through, and I it has been really valuable for me, and I hope that the poems sort of serve the same function for a lot of people to reflect back and you see how far you have traveled and evolved and healed. Like when I do revisit where I'm from,
Yeah.
it reminds me of how hard I've fought to be here now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
About this poem prompt, this structure, is that it made space for memory just to be memory. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It wasn't like the truncated nature of it, the way you move along, the
Yeah.
way you go personal to the to the economic to the to nature to story. You know what I mean? To sensory information, the way it was, everything was so well contained. It allowed for me the memories to, like, there's things in there that I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that,
I know.
that the poem
Hmm.
elicited in a really beautiful way. And it wasn't about this sad, oh, look at how sad it was. And it wasn't, oh,
Yeah.
speaking of the dead, look at how, this sort of hard scrabble, hard fought, good working folk kind of bullshit narrative. It was like, no, it really allows for the memories to be memories, for truth to be truth. And I
Hmm.
think it's really powerful. And I wasn't expecting that to happen when I sat down with it. So thank you for that opportunity. It was just
Oh,
feeling
I'm
like,
so glad it did because I
yeah,
feel very similarly. And that's part of the reason I return to it every year. And so I have the experience of reading it because
yeah,
it's vulnerable, I think,
yeah, very,
reading it.
yeah. No, I
Like
was
surprisingly.
really scared to read it out loud,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I even I was, oh, I'm going to practice before, and then I couldn't do
Yeah.
it. I got too all alone. I got too vulnerable and scared. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's why I do it too, to remind myself of what people are experiencing. Because it's very different for me listening. Like I'm so
yeah,
comfortable listening. That's my default personality. So, but the reading is, and I also, I don't know if you have this experience with all that you've written about your life, but sometimes I am struck by how other people experience what I've experienced because I have spent so much time living through it that I don't really get how it affects other people until I share with them.
yeah,
And they're like, oh, that's a lot, you know? And you're
right.
like, is it?
Oh, that's that's the short version. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I guess, you know, because when you're living through it, you can't really do that.
No, no, it's funny, like just having moved and, or financial situations or insurance changes and getting, like,
Mm,
every
mhm, mhm,
a therapist, right? And then
mhm.
interview a bunch of therapists and the right fit. And then they'd be like, tell me about your life. And then I just, boom, I go on autopilot. I just sort of narrate my ACE, like my ACE score, like, with like a very, like, and I have it down, like, I'll do it in under 7 minutes. I can tell you the whole, like, well, here are the clinical things that
Mhm,
for you to know,
mhm,
clinician. And they're always sort of like, oh,
mhm,
and like, and there's this disconnect where there's sort of like, you just sort of said all that.
mhm,
Well,
mhm.
yeah, because I've had to do this, and I've written about it, and there's this detachment that is necessary just to survive it, and that writing about it and talking about it are two different things. Like, and
Yeah. And also going off your talking points. Like for me, when I talk, like there are certain things, particularly I think when, I've been working on this book about sibling loss. So I've been talking a lot about my brother, specific things, but then I'll be in conversation with somebody and something off of the talking points will come up and I'll get like emotional
yeah,
completely unexpectedly, It's like, oh,
yeah,
I haven't processed this.
yeah,
The things that you've processed, or for me personally, the things that I've processed, especially multiple times, I can more, okay, I
right,
can dialogue about this, but the things that sort of bubble up to the surface can be surprising.
Yeah, yeah. Which again, this poem did like Brioschi.
Mm.
It's basically Italian Alka-Seltzer. It's like the
Oh,
pop.
okay.
It's more granular. It's not like a tablet, but
Hmm.
it's like bicarbonate thing. You put it in water, it fizzes up. And I was
Hmm.
like, and like that's what we always had. And and just like all these like memories I have of this product, that we sort of like one of the few ethnic products we still had.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, we always had a stomach ache, didn't we? And then
Hmm.
I got this level of grief of like,
Hmm.
we always had a stomach ache, and there were a lot of different reasons for that, and none of them were healthy.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
had a stomach ache a lot.
it was sort of this off-topic thing where like I don't talk
Hmm.
about Brioschi and therapy. Like I don't. That doesn't
Yeah.
like this poem unearthed that.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's kind of like going in a side door, I think of it.
Yeah, totally. Which is a great writing technique. I mean,
Yes.
that with my students all the time. I
Hmm.
try to get them in through the side door
Hmm.
because you can access some really great material that way if you're
Hmm.
ready, want to.
Yeah, and I think lots of times for the reader, it helps them too. Like they don't want to just stare at it. It's too
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
They can't find a way in either. Just like we can't find a way in.
yeah.
It's like, oh, this is terrible. Okay, I'm putting this down.
Right.
Like I was saying with your book, All the Mothers. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about a lot of things in the book,
Uh huh.
but you're coming at it through the side door. And
Yeah.
it's like fun. And I mean, all of the stuff, I know it's not about the poem, but I just want to say all the stuff with Sandy, I just found it so humorous because, I went to a college like that. I knew tons of people. I was in a sorority. I found all of that just so funny and spot on. And I spent so much time sort of just being grateful that these people, like, I believed that I fit in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
And how
I
important
just,
that
yeah,
belonging,
yeah,
like that's what you want. You want it so badly that you'll put up like anything that like any simulacrum of that. You're like, that's great. I
right.
belong.
Oh my God, they think that I fit in here.
Right.
Like this is like, I've accomplished this amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, they did feel sorry for me, but
Right.
which they do for her. And I don't know. I thought all of that was, but it was done with love
Yeah.
because so often we see characters like that and they're just not really very multidimensional.
Right.
Um, and I
Yeah.
thought all of the women were multidimensional and complex. And it's sadly so rare still to find a book where it's
Yeah.
about women just kind of living and
Yeah.
they're complex.
I mean, that's what I tried to do, and I try to give everybody. That's what I also tell my students, and I do this more in my nonfiction classes, but it's true for fiction too. Like, how do you give people dignity? You give them their, and that way you can write about awful,
Mm-hmm.
but in their complexity, they're not like a mustachioed villain. They're they're complex and like
Mm-hmm.
he ultimately awful. They can be an antagonist, but they're not this one note. And I tried to do that in this book with even especially with all the female characters, but even with some of even some of the male characters, even some of like in the beginning, it's the story of shedding identities. It's like
Yes. Yes.
this is who I am because this is who everybody told me I was, and and
Yeah.
and it was working. So who am I to change anything? And then and then the character sort of hitting these walls. Okay, this isn't working, so I have to shed this part of my identity. Okay, now this isn't working, I have to shed this part of my identity. And for someone like Sandy, where she's, like I try to give her friends, like they're, her first crew of friends, like they're really shallow, but they're all desperately trying
Mm-hmm.
succeed in this narrative that no one is succeeding in.
Right.
That even straight white girls, straight cis white girls, are in,
With
you
money
know,
and looks and are thin and are all that, like they're never thin enough. You're never wealthy enough. You're not like there's no enough.
they have all the things that should make somebody
Yes.
satisfied and happy, and they're not. And they which makes them double down on all of the
Yeah.
things, all the false things
Yeah.
that instead of letting it go. And I tried to show that with complexity to be like they're not just jerks. Like they're fighting and losing a battle too. They're just not losing that battle perfectly as Sandy is, and that's why whole, sheds this idea.
Yeah. Sometimes losing the battle is good.
It's the best thing that can happen to you.
Can be very liberating. If you
Many
just
times,
let your,
yeah, losing the battle, and I'm
yeah,
like, that really hurt, but thank God.
yeah, because it can give you an opportunity to re-examine what you were fighting for in the first place. And I really felt that in the
Yeah,
book, and I
yeah,
appreciated it because I think we are really living in a moment where so many people are kind of just default fighting for things,
yeah,
and they're not sitting with like, why?
yeah.
Why am I fighting for this? Who does this benefit? And I feel so often we should ask ourselves that question. Like you were saying about don't speak ill of the dead. Who does it benefit?
Right, right,
You
right.
know, not us, not
Not
the person who's processing and living.
on us. Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah. And I think for so many people, it feels truly like revolutionary and like bad to think about who does this benefit because they don't even think in terms of that's how the world operates.
right, right, right. Well,
But
it's
it does.
scary because
I
and
know.
if you ask that question, all these other questions come tumbling out,
Indeed.
and that can be really scary when you don't have any community support. And we live like
Yes.
what everything that's going on now is so chaotic and it's dramatic and it's. But I'm like, communities are showing up,
Yes.
and I'm gonna start crying, and I'm like, this is needed all along. We've
Yeah.
needed, and like during COVID, I saw. I mean, I live in New York City, and I saw it in New York. We really sort of take care of each other in New York City
Yeah.
because we all ride the subway, we all ride the bus. We can't. You can't not face. I mean, physically face the humanity around you. But in
Yeah.
so many places, COVID was this tragic time where people became so much more atomized and insular in their family of in their sort of their in their little pods,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, all that matters is this, and it was like, no, we need so much more. All the mothers is about that, like,
Yeah.
it's not enough. Like, your little nuclear family is not enough, even if it's a healthy one. And I don't know, most people don't have that healthy. It's not enough. We need a whole community because we're not all good at everything, and we're
Yeah.
not all in the right headspace all the time. And like,
Right.
and like, I'm seeing this happening where community is it's so painful how we have arrived there. But
Yes.
but it's so amazing to be like, okay, no, like, we are a community. We're bigger than just our family.
Yes. Yes. And it's like it actually makes your life better. The more you sort of open your thoughts and your arms to all of this, like it enriches your life. It's not, I mean, we say it all the time, but it's not a pie. Like there isn't just so much. Like there's more.
Yeah,
And for me, it is the thing that keeps me going, truly. Like
yeah,
I said in an email yesterday, like when things are saying have no joy, have no hope,
yeah,
things being the federal government are saying that,
right,
I community is the thing that gets, yes, that's my family, but it's also like all the mostly women I know who are writing and talking and supporting and like cheering each other on in a genuine
yeah,
way.
right,
Um,
yeah,
in a cheering all of it, all the mess,
yeah,
you know. Um, I'm so grateful to not feel alone. And I think I felt alone so much. I really, I can feel the difference, like in my body. I'm
yeah,
not doing this alone. And it's life saving.
yeah. Well, and that's what my therapist says, is the bad thing doesn't cause trauma. It's the being alone
Yeah.
that even young children can face death. They can face, what I mean, like immense loss. But if there is container,
Yeah.
and I'm talking not in the stage of war, because that's
Yeah, no, I know. I thought
that,
of that
that,
immediately. I
that
think many of us do, but it's also, I mean, it is also the war that ICE is waging. Like it's both. And
right,
these people know that, right? They know that when you're isolated and separated,
right, exactly.
um,
Yeah, and that's why that's what's going to get them in the end. It's like, no, we have us,
yeah,
and we're waking up to that, and that you can get through really, really pain. Like you can get through divorce, you can get through death, you can get
yeah,
through loss if there are people there who are like, you're not alone with this. I'm here with you in this.
yeah, yeah.
And it's still
It's,
sad, it's still painful, but it's not that sticky, icky, like
well, the
covered in.
shame.
covered in goo, shame,
Yeah.
all of that. That's
Yeah. I think the shame is the part that's so hard to
yeah,
unpack, particularly as a young person, because you just feel wrong,
yeah. Like I
like
am.
your existence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me and share your poem. I'm so excited that we're in this anthology together. Thank you to
Yeah.
Jenny Bartoy for all of your time and energy. Congratulations on your book.
Thank
I
you.
hope lots of people read it. Any other last thoughts? Those are all of mine. Thank you.
Yeah. This book is joyful. Please buy it. I'm happy to do book clubs.
Yes, I loved that. Thank you for bringing
Yeah,
that
and
up.
like I'm like 10 people. I'm like really, if you get like 4 people, I'll totally.
Like buy the book, right?
Yeah,
Because you see people who are like, they just bought one and passed it around. Four people buy the book, you
4
know?
people. It can be audiobook. It can be Kindle.
Right. You're right. Right.
Counts. And public library counts because it shows demand at least,
Yes.
But yeah, I'm happy to show up to a book club.
Yes. I love that. Anyway, I'm just wishing you all the best and
Thank you.
thank you for your time and all of this just means the world to me. Keeps me going. So
No,
thank
thanks
you.
for no, he's bigger because I have you, Allison. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right,
Bye.
bye.